Welcome back to Wood Acres. It's July and I'm going to take you on a tour through the garden. I'm out here by the pond right now and we are having a beautiful day today. I do have my duck Rita in the pond right now. She's floating around getting some special attention today. Oh, we got a bird in the sky. Yeah, I know, you saw it too. Go make yourself known. You see him too, Dabbles? I moved Dabbles and his ducks up to the triangle house so he can get to know Mumbles. But we're going to take a walk around the gardens today, and I have to tell you, I did not do a lot of gardening this year. But luckily, since I've been gardening for a few years now, I have some compound interest built up into the gardens. All these sunflowers here are actually volunteer sunflowers that I didn't even have to plant. I also had the volunteer calendula come up and start blooming, and you can see we have some portulaca there by the log. So I had all that in there last year and it just reseeded and came back this year. I weeded around it whenever I went in there, so I let all that grow instead of the weeds. But I didn't mulch this year either, so you can see the weeds are starting to catch up now too. The hostas have been blooming all over the property, just looking gorgeous. They're actually starting to get to their finish. And the hostas have been blooming all over the property, just looking gorgeous. We actually have the goldfinches on the sunflowers now starting to find all the seeds. It's fun watching those goldfinches flutter in. Sometimes there can be a dozen of them on those sunflowers. And now that I moved Dabbles and his ducks up to the barn, I'm going to get in here with my new pond net and skim out some of this algae that's collecting on the bottom. Oh, Rita, you're still enjoying it. The koi are looking really good in here. They're getting bigger. I think some of them are about 8 inches long now. And the pond is kind of low right now because we are not getting any rain. I have filled it up a couple times just from the house. I don't know what it is, but ever since we dug the duck pond expansion out there, the rain has just been skipping right over us. They keep calling for rain. They even have a thunderstorm called for today, but we really have nothing but blue skies here. But Dabbles and his ducks did a lot of dabbling over here at the beach, and it floated all the sand down into the main basin. I think if I get in there with a shovel or a bucket, I could probably scoop a lot of that back up here. I'll have to try and do it really slow so the sand doesn't just float up into the current. But one of the last times the pond was full, we actually had the bluegill that was trapped in the bog filter make his way out. He's right there. I only have 2 bluegill in here, so I know that's the one that made it out because the other bluegill is actually a little bit bigger than him. So he was actually stuck in the wetland bog filter up here because I have a log right there that the current flows over. All the water gets pumped into here and it flows down into the pond. So after we had a heavy rain last time, the pond was really full, level with that log, and he swam up current into this area. And then we didn't get any rain, the water went back down, and he got trapped behind that log. But we recently had the pond really full and he finally made his way back out to the main pond. Oh, the geyser. Watch it, Rita. You don't want to get launched up into the air, girl. But we do have some weeds around the pond here. I never got it perfectly manicured, but I still think it's looking pretty good. And this little patch of pumpkins that started from a rotten pumpkin I left there from fall decoration, it just completely rotted there all winter long and into spring. And then from its mash rot, it actually sprouted up a few pumpkins. So this is the epitome of lazy gardening. If you just put out fall decoration and leave it there, it'll turn into a plant and it'll actually start to grow another pumpkin. Look at that little thing. This is my best chance at a pumpkin this year. Huh, Goldie Hawn? I see you. And the bundle of willow branches I stuffed in the pond just to get started are turning into a whole tree now. I need to get these planted out into the landscape. I just can't do any planting right now because we're not getting any rain. It's too dry out there. All the grass in the field's even turning crispy. Over here in the ramp bed, it's about time to prune back all the perennials. The hostas are about finished up, and then this gladiola I never got staked. It actually got blown over in the windstorm. We do have some of the snapdragons that I moved over here from being volunteers in the pots. Those are still blooming, and I can actually cut these gladiolas off and put them in an arrangement to finish. But we also have some more volunteers outside the wall. I noticed some zinnias were growing up here, so I just left those grow. This one's not a zinnia, that's a pokeweed. I do really enjoy making my gardens look nice. But this year my animals up on the homestead took priority, so I'm really happy to see all these volunteers popping up over the property. Huh, Pop? And yeah, that branch that broke off in the storm weeks ago, still just hanging up there. We got up there with the backhoe and the pull saw and got everything we could actually reach down, but it's looking like we need to call in professional help to finish that job. Not something we typically do. You cleaning up my algae, girl? Good job. All right, Rita's gonna play in the pond. We'll head up to the pergola garden because that one's the best looking garden right now. But I can't walk right past these. We have some beautiful volunteers right here too. We have poppies blooming up here right next to the sidewalk, but we also have 4 o'clocks. That one's not blooming, but this one was blooming last night. It's a beautiful white flower. The 4 o'clock plant is actually an evening bloomer, so it's really nice to have here on the patio. After the warm day starts cooling off, the blooms here start opening up on the 4 o'clock plant. And then they close up in the morning whenever the day starts warming up. We have some white ones on this side of the sidewalk and the poppies, and then on this side of the sidewalk we have some pink ones and red ones. Some lighter pink ones right here, and these red ones have been blooming for a while. But it's morning now, and as the temperature rises, they all start to close up. We have some poppies still blooming though, they like the warmth. And these 4 o'clocks actually reseed really well. I love their seeds, they're really fun to pick with kids. We don't have any seeds starting right now, but once the seed actually starts, it's a little kettlebell inside there. I'll show you whenever they start. But it's a really big seed, and you gotta get in there and just pluck it out with your fingers. So if you have a kid, they have tiny hands, they can get in there and just pick them all out. But they're also just gonna fall all over the sidewalk here. And you can see the lupin already put out its seed. It has a little bean cluster here, and when you break it open, you can see what kind of seed it has. So I see a lot of things I could do to make the gardens look better, but I'm trying to enjoy what I have right now. Heading up to the pergola, I do have some things planted along the driveway line here. We have the hosta that's finishing up its bloom. We have calla lilies blooming all over the property right now, just gorgeous. This little hosta was a volunteer, but I left that go. It's actually getting bigger and bloomed this year. And I did do some weeding around here a while ago, and it helped out the dianthus start to bloom. We have a couple between the blue fescue here, and the blue fescue didn't die from me going through and pruning it like I did. It's been here for a few years now, and I prune it like that each time. Now these two over here next to the sidewalk are not doing as good because they're underneath the red maple here, and the little bit of rain that we have been getting has not been reaching these guys. They're still blue, but they're struggling. Now I must say that the pergola garden is looking pretty gorgeous right now. I didn't do anything with the annuals this year, but I did get in there and throw some mulch down. Now we're going to start on the end of the pergola here, and I'm going to walk you through the whole garden. The main anchor tree here is an eastern hemlock, and my dad planted this over 30 years ago. So at the base of that we have the variegated feather reed grass, and we have a hedge of Shasta daisies. These were looking really nice. They did get blown over in the wind whenever we had a couple windy storms, especially the ones over there across the driveway underneath the poplar. But these ones actually held up pretty good with the hemlock blocking a lot of those northern winds. Now we do have volunteer sunflowers out here in front of the pergola garden, and we do have a small one blooming here. There you go. That one's helping out all the little bees. Hi buddy. Oh, I'm blocking you. Hi buddy. But these ones are actually going to be blooming here soon, so we're going to have the pergola looking good for a while here. On the left post of the entrance, we have the sweet autumn clematis, and it's almost reaching to the top of the 8-foot pergola here. We have the zebra grass right next to it, filling in that whole section, creating a nice private room behind there. And the blue star Amsonia just filled out this corner beautifully. It's done blooming right now, but the foliage on it's just gorgeous. And behind that, we have a fragrant pink Asiatic lily, and right now there's a hummingbird. Oh, there's a hummingbird moth on it. Hey buddy. This is the world's smallest warm-blooded pollinator. I see these guys every year, but they're always fun to watch. They're the world's smallest warm-blooded pollinator. Hey buddy, not trying to scare you off. Oh, I'm sure he's loving the Asiatic lily here. It's not only beautiful, it's so fragrant. I can smell it from all the way back here. I've already had a relative ask for a bulb off of these, but I want to get these spread around the property. So I'm trying to get these grown up nice and big, and then I can get them all over because they are my favorite smelling flower right now. In spring, it's the hyacinth, but right now in the summer, it's the lily. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Right here on the pathway, we have all the gladiolas blooming, and they're starting to fall over. This beautiful pink one is actually prime right now, completely full, and has a couple more to go. And then we have a beautiful light pink one here that fades into a light white into a soft yellow in the center. Behind that, we have an orangish red one that's very vibrant, and then we have some white ones, a soft yellow, some more pinks there, and the whites. It's just beautiful over here. And just coming into the pathway here, we have the red trumpet vine blooming. It dropped a cluster right in your face here. This puts on beautiful clusters of trumpet-style flowers that the hummingbirds just love. It is a vigorous grower and a vigorous reseeder though, so you gotta watch all the volunteers it drops. Even right here behind the gladiolas, you can see a 6-foot runner starting. And there's not a bloom on the dark suit hydrangea in there. That's a big leaf hydrangea. But the firelight hydrangea is coming into its full bloom. It comes a little bit earlier than the limelight hydrangea, and this one is looking big. I think it's filling out that space back there perfectly. But coming into the pathway here, we have a hedge of calla lilies, and they're still putting on blooms coming up through there. And on the other side of the pathway, we have my gourds, and they're not all doing great. Some of them are doing better than others, and I am trying to keep these watered back here, but the bugs have gotten them. I feel like we're in a straight drought right now, not getting any rain. I do have some still growing here on the back side. We have 3 right here that are doing okay. I'm going to get watered today, but that whole side over there got wiped out by bugs. But we do have some more calla lilies blooming back here. This is the only spot we have dahlias, and we have some red dahlias blooming here. And of course, all the volunteer sunflowers really holding it together back here behind the pergola. Just giving a nice pop of color back here that's really needed. And behind them around the hanger here, we do have hostas blooming. This is pretty much all I was able to get my dad to allow me to plant around the building. He doesn't want anything touching the metal or getting too big around here. He wants it all low profile. So I just put in a row of hostas back here. They obviously don't get any water, but they're still putting on a pretty decent bloom. And the row ends with some yuccas and some irises. And then out along my roadside, I've actually been planting a hedgerow of Rosa Sharons over the last few years, and they're starting to bloom now. It'll be nice when they're big and full, but I enjoy a pop of color driving by. And the pink wiggler is actually still blooming here on the corner. Now this is just some future planning over here, but towards the end of the chicken summer run where I have my drop-off zone for materials, I still have a pile of rocks here with a sunflower blooming, volunteered. But once I get this pile of rocks moved where I want it around the property, I'm probably going to section this area off as another little garden. I have 2 Thuja Green Giants growing here, alternating with Cleveland pears. And I actually have some irises speckled in there too already, and a white rhododendron here on the corner that's getting taken over by the grass. But I just wanted to let you guys know that's on the list. This is going to turn into a little garden too. I do want to try and block off the road view as much as possible going into the homestead and the barn. This is the access road to the barn, so I want to get a little road sign here I can put up, access road 209, right on the edge of the poplar bed here, where we actually have a lot of Shasta daisy blown over by the wind, and the poplar tree took some hits too. What are you doing, puppy? No, I'm not lifting that rock. I put that there as a permanent rock. Yeah, it's supposed to stay. That was a 1 move rock, puppy. You do you. Hold on, I got sidetracked. Let's finish up the pergola garden here. Coming through the pathway on the other side of the pergola garden, we have some hostas blooming over here with a nice purple, and we have another big old pink Asiatic lily, and the fragrance is just beautiful on this thing. It's almost finished. Look at it. It has 2 more, 3, 4, only a few more buds here to open up. And beside that, we have the giant yellow echinacea. This is putting on some big old cobs. I would typically tie a rope around these long stems right to that post, but I was a lazy gardener this year, so they're just falling over right now. Right above us, we have the silver lace vine blooming gorgeously. We have the green wall over here right beside us, and then we have the whole trellis to walk under. Oh, sorry, bird. You got a nest in there, or are you just sitting? Oh yeah, you definitely have. Oh, there's 2. You got 2 nests. 3 nests. How many birds are living in here? Well, it looks like we have silver lace condos up here for the birds. They're making a bunch of nests in there, and it's just looking beautiful. That's a nice entryway right there, if I do say so myself. Down here at the base of the silver lace vine, we have the Grapeolini crepe myrtle, and I was wondering if it was going to get enough sun this year to bloom, and it did. It's getting nice full bloom on it. You can see all these tiny little purple clusters that open up just from these little balls here. You see those little balls? They pop open into a big purple cluster. Gorgeous. Now I did pass it up back here because it's not doing anything. We do have a black diamond crepe myrtle right here. It's just not blooming. I do think this one might need more sun, or it might just need to get a little bit older. But the pergola garden I think is looking gorgeous right now. It's one of the best turnouts I've had with the amount of work I put in this year. But inside the pergola here we have the wooden swing in the center. I didn't find my single person hammock that I wanted to hang there, but that's what goes on that side. And then we have the little dining room set here with the bird bath in the center that needs water like everything else around here. But I'm really liking the way it is inside the pergola here. I do have a larger vision for the pergola here, and I think with the growth this year we're on our way. I think I do want to expand the honeysuckle trellis out a little bit to create more privacy for that room in there. And then you'd actually be forced to walk through the front, which is right here. All right, well, that was the pergola garden. Now we're going to stop out front where things could be better. So I do have an overall vision for my gardens. I really want full garden, something that you have to walk through to actually discover everything. Kind of like a paradise oasis, just full of nature for animals and people. And of course it's a work in progress, so I'm just trying to do a bunch of little things that'll add up over time. And some of those pieces that I'm using are things that I've been able to save from my grandparents' places. To me personally, I really enjoy the look of an old farmhouse that you can just tell had a lot of life lived in it. And after my grandparents passed away, a lot of their stuff was getting thrown out, and they actually had a lot of things that I would go out to a yard sale and buy myself. So I saved a lot of stuff from the the life they lived so it can live on in the life that I'm living. But right now the front porch has some knickknacks on it, and I enjoy seeing them because I know where they came from. I even had to bring out one of my grandma's chairs here so I could watch Mumbles whenever she was out in here in the yard recovering. And I also have my fig tree out here in a pot. It's looking pretty good, and it's also starting to put on some fruit. I probably need to water this pot a little bit. Everything needs water around here. Pop. This is actually a well in here. I just don't have a pump for it right now. And I also got this cool little rustic birdhouse from a guy I work with, and I like that little accent right there. This big old Rose of Sharon does need pruned back, but I'm waiting for the bloom to finish before I dock it down, because it needs docked down pretty good so we can actually see out of that window. But I gotta wait for the blooms to finish up. The bees are in there loving it. I can just hear them buzzing all over. And it might surprise you, but we have more volunteer sunflowers out here. We had a few volunteer sunflowers that I left go out here. We also have the allium in the middle that's blooming, and I know the bees are all over this. There's a honeybee. There's a bunch of little sweat bees on there too. Another honeybee. There's a ton of little bees on there. That's crazy. And there's volunteer Rose of Sharon everywhere. This thing reseeds like crazy. So a lot of the weeds right here are all Rose of Sharon. I just took one step in the yard and look how the grass just flattened out. We need some rain. Right here in the front we have what I call old ladies carpet. It's actually ranunculus, but it volunteered right here because it was here last year volunteered, and I just left it reseed. If you're not super particular on where you want things, you can utilize volunteers a lot. And sometimes they just pop up in the perfect spot, right underneath the red gladiola. On the other side of the big Rose of Sharon here, we have the hosta bed, and it was in beautiful full bloom here for 4th of July. But hostas actually really love water. You could actually plant them right into a pond, but they're not getting a lot of water over here because we're not getting any rain. But even with a lot of stress on the leaves, we're still getting some blooms out of them. Now, I don't have any friends, so nobody actually comes over and sees my gardens unless I video them and post them. Now, I'm not trying to go around and make everything beautiful and perfect in the gardens. I'm just trying to get a base structure down, and eventually I'll have some gorgeous gardens. Oh, Pop, but we had a setback, didn't we, bud? So I live here with Echo Pup at my parents' house, and about 4 years ago I took over the gardens to try and make everything look nice and add life back to the property. And it's been working out for a while now, but unfortunately my dad just went through last week and sprayed poison through part of my gardens. I had some stuff planted in the hemlock ring here, and he didn't know that, so he went through and sprayed Roundup all through the hemlock ring, and now everything's dead. And it was a dry day and the wind was blowing, so now the yard's all dead over here that the Roundup got oversprayed on. And he even continued into the front garden here where we do have some sunflowers and daylilies and hostas and other stuff blooming here, and he went through and just sprayed a lot of it with Roundup, so it looks pretty bad out here in the front gardens now. So I don't use poisons in my gardens. He was only supposed to go through the driveways and along the road edge, and he got carried away. So I'm really not happy about the poison being sprayed in my gardens. I'm hoping he understands that and won't be doing that again. And now I do still have some hostas blooming out here in a ring underneath the Royal Empress tree. And it is looking full and gorgeous this year. I can't wait to see a bloom on this. I hope we have a mild enough winter that that'll happen. I'm in zone 6A though, and this is a zone 7 tree, so there's a slim chance that this actually gets to bloom. But I gave one of these trees to a guy and he planted it by his pond, and it actually bloomed this spring. It was only one cluster of blooms, but I'm still jealous. Oh, and the thistle's going to seed. Look at all that. That's just all thistle seed, gonna grow a bunch of spiky plants. The birds will eat some of those seeds, use it for nesting, but it's more of a hassle than a benefit. And I might need to do some pruning back here. My pathway completely shut down. Ugh. But here in the corner of the front garden, we do have the Blue Jean Baby Russian Sage blooming. I was worried about this the way it was looking early on, but I love these flowers. They actually do really good in arrangements too. They also have a fragrance, which is really nice to bring inside. It does look like I have some thistle coming up through my Blue Star Juniper, but the gold juniper is doing pretty good, and we have a Black-Eyed Susan that volunteered back here. Hopefully that keeps putting down some seeds. And in the back behind this Blueberry Viburnum, we have a daylily that's blooming. It actually has a stripe in it. I don't have this anywhere else. This is one of those special daylilies that's just hiding in the corner back here. I'm sure other people have it, but if you walk around my property, you're not going to see this daylily until you find it in this corner. I'm pretty sure this is a Joe Pye weed. It's getting pretty big. I'm gonna leave it go for now. This is a common weed here in America, but I think some people in Europe use these in their gardens. But just panning up here, the Royal Empress is massive. Now coming down the sideline here, we have the row of limelight hydrangeas coming into full bloom. These are just gorgeous and massive. They have tighter clusters than the firelight hydrangeas, so they do a lot better in arrangements. And these also hold up really well whenever you dry them out for dry flower arrangements in the fall. We have 4 of them going down this row here, and they're just getting bigger each year. I do actually want to move these into the yard so I can get a row of evergreens behind them. This oak is doing really good, but it's going to stay where it is. I want to fill in some evergreens around it. I have this trunk protected because it actually has a gorgeous rippled trunk to it, and I don't want the deer getting to it. It has a gorgeous trunk. Hard to see. But these limelight hydrangeas have a lot of buds on them. They should be blooming here for a long time. My Cleveland pear put on some really nice growth. I really like the upright habitat it has for this garden, and I wouldn't mind getting an evergreen right in between the oak and the Cleveland here. More of the Shasta daisies got all wind blown over, but they still have some blooms on them here for the bees. And we have something for the butterflies too. We have some butterfly weed that came back this year. I'm really happy to see this. I'm trying to get it established here. This pokeweed out of the way. Look at that carrot root on that thing. But I started this butterfly weed from seed, and it actually takes 365 days to bloom. So it was a really long seed starting process. So I'm really happy to see this reestablished from the plants that I had in here last year. No butterflies right now, but the bees are on it. And in the center of this little triangle garden, we have the Bobo hydrangea right here that's blooming full. We need to get the Shasta daisies out of its way so it actually can be seen. These are almost done anyway. I could cut these back right now. They might even re-bloom if I cut them back halfway. But this is a lazy garden year. We have some salvia blooming down here. Look at this. Gorgeous. Whoa. See a rabbit, pup? Yep, I heard a rabbit run. Leave it go, pup. And in some other bad news, we lost the corkscrew willow here on the specimen corner plant. I don't know what happened to it. I tried to give it some water during those hot days we were having, but it's been in the ground for 2 years now. I thought it should be good. The only other thing I could think to do is maybe to cut it back 50% to see if it would reshoot some new growth. But that's really unfortunate. I was liking that right there. You find anything, bud? Now coming over here into the side garden, it actually looks pretty good. We have the crocosmia blooming out front here. This is a big hedge of crocosmia. I love this plant. It's kind of like a gladiola, but it has a smaller raceme style flower. So these are a nice hardy variation to having gladiolas, but we also have the hardy gladiolas right behind it. And probably one of the best clumps of Shasta daisy I have. And right beside the crocosmia, right in front of me, we have this big old hibiscus about to bloom. It is covered in buds right now. None of them are open yet, but this thing is covered in clusters. It's doing really well right here. Behind that, we have a beautiful daylily. This one actually is a different color than I think I have anywhere else. Has a gorgeous little purple kiss inside that yellow flower. And I'd really like to have what's behind it reseed and spread around this garden. This is a woodland phlox, and I love the beautiful little clusters of flowers it has. My purple barberry here is getting massive. I'm gonna have to prune that back. It does have thorns on it, so I don't want it getting out of control. We have this big old Shasta daisy right here. I got this off of some lady that was giving away free plants on Facebook. And that's probably my best clump of Shasta daisy. Coming through the back side of the garden here, we have some more daylilies on the back. These are the orange daylilies. They don't have that stripe like the other one has. These are just commonly referred to as ditch lilies, and they're all over the property. And here in the center of the side garden, I actually have my oak leaf holly. This was supposed to be the center specimen of the whole garden, but it got completely crushed whenever our big maple tree fell. So right now we have a cherry tree in the center that volunteered. I'm leaving it go because I don't have anything better to replace it yet. Coming out to the other side of the garden here, we have some liatris. We have purple and we have white. It's finishing up its bloom right now, but it has the tiniest little clusters of flowers. I bought these two a few years ago, but I was actually helping an older lady clean out her gardens this year, and she gave me some purple liatris, which I still have to get planted. Here in the center of the garden, we have the platform bird feeder, and we have a hosta blooming right underneath it. This side's a little bit more open than the other side. We have another hibiscus right here, completely covered in buds, but it's a lot smaller than the other one. I believe it's because it gets a lot more shade. We have this big old maple tree right here, and it used to have a sister right beside it on the other side of the side garden. But since that one fell down in a storm, we have a lot more sunlight on the left side of the garden than we do the right side. And sunlight helps things grow. Huh, Pop? You coming to see what's taking so long? We have a couple more daylilies finishing up over here in the corner next to the yew and the lamb's ear. And then we have the hostas blooming here in the corner, all directly underneath this loose branch in the trees. Huh, Pop? Why are you standing under it, bud? It hasn't destroyed anything yet, but we didn't get it down yet. It is about time I come in here and prune my dogwood though. This is getting a little bit shaggy and it's shading out the Shasta daisy that's underneath it. Try and make it quick running through the vegetable garden here. We have another hibiscus blooming. This is the last hibiscus I have on the property and it's actually blooming first. Gorgeous flower. Typically this one is facing the wrong direction though. But we have more calla lilies and hostas blooming down here. The butterfly bush is blooming here in the center, and we do have the tiger lily actually blooming. What an intricate looking flower. Gorgeous. We also have gladiolas blooming here around the pollinator ring. We have nice tall pink ones, white ones, and then a dark pink one over here. And these are all hardy, just getting better each year. As you may know, I already had to completely tear out my giant pumpkin. It got a disease and died really quickly. I threw in another pumpkin just to see if we could get something going here, and it does look like it took since I planted it. It's put on at least a foot of growth. I'm trying to train it around this corner because I did plant it wrong. I planted it in the wrong direction, so I'm trying to get this vine to actually lay down here. You really only can move it on warm days. You want to move it during the warmest part of the day. That's when it's most malleable. But this was actually in a 5-gallon bucket for a little bit too long, so we already have some splits on the vine. I just want to grow something. I hate not having a pumpkin. And I can hear the bees buzzing right beside me on the Rose of Sharons. Now my potatoes were looking really good, but they're starting to dry out now. I might need to get some water on them today because it does not look like we're going to get that storm they called for. My Royal Empress tree back here is looking nice and full, getting bigger each year, and more volunteer sunflowers looking good. I really do want to get some work done here in the garden so the gardens can still look good going into fall, because once these sunflowers are done, I'm going to run out of a lot of blooms here. And we still do have a couple squash here alive on the mound. So my biggest problem is not having access to water down here in the gardens. If I want to make it out the squash mound, I have to carry watering cans, and it really hasn't been feasible to do that with the weather we've been having. The plants need a good drenching, not just a little bit from the watering can. Huh, pup? What are you yelling about, Rita? No, I tried to bring you a friend yesterday. She got out of the pond and left. I know. Good boy. You cooling off, pup? And on the backside of the pond mound here, we have some cosmos blooming. All volunteers. We'll finish up the video over here in the island garden. On the end of the peninsula here, we have the blue sea erigeum, still adding some blue color with all its stems. And the pollinators are still loving it. We have been having some daylily blooms in here, but I think they're about all finished up. Oh, there's one right here that didn't open. So the soil that makes up the mound here is not that good. So whenever we came into bloom season and we didn't get any rain, it really didn't let the blooms last as long as they could have. So the dry weather really just shortens the bloom season for everything too. We still have a few hostas blooming that get the afternoon shade. Even all the grass in the yard now is turning brown with the lack of rain. But we do have some blooms here in the middle that are getting the shade from the maple tree, getting sheltered from that afternoon sun. We have a calla lily hedge going along the walking path here. We have different colors in this hedge too. We have this sherbet yellow color all the way to this deep dark purple. And some hostas blooming in there around the bench. And in the back corner here, we get a little bit more sun. We have a beautiful sunflower here that I transplanted. It was a volunteer in my raised bed, and I just moved it out here. You can see it was still able to bloom, but it just didn't get as big as the other ones. Back here, we have another hydrangea. This one looks a lot like the firelight hydrangea, but I believe this one is the quickfire. So it gets an early bloom, and it fades into a reddish pink instead of the limelight that fades into a pistachio green. But it too, like the firelight, has a spread out cluster form, so it's not that great for cut flowers. It's more of a landscape shrub. And back here we have the variegated liriope, but I think it just finished its bloom. Huh, Pop? I've done absolutely nothing here in the food forest this year. We are getting berries. Right now it's actually blackberry season, so let me see if we have anything ripening up. Yep, right there. Isn't that neat? Come here. Come here. Blackberry. So I haven't done anything, but they're still growing in here. That is so sweet when it's warm. Much like when you're picking a tomato, you want to do it at the hottest point of the day, whenever all the sugars are most concentrated. But we're starting to get some blackberries ripening up here. We have the Josta berry back there, but I'm not sure if that's getting enough sun. We do have raspberries there in the middle. Hopefully they'll start ripening up here and I can find some of those. And I only got a few of the black raspberries. They're already finished up now. These are the raspberries here, but I don't see anything happening on them. There are some pink lemonade blueberries here though. Oh, that was pretty good. I might pick a couple of these. Any of these ready? How do you... That's not ready. Is that ready? No. So we have some pink lemonade blueberries coming up here. This one should be a regular blueberry plant. Yeah, there's some blue ones on there. You ready? Nope, still a little firm. If it doesn't come off easily, it's probably not ripe. So if you plant it, berries will come. Well, this is unfortunate. Not sure why my indigo Hascat Perry looks like it's dying. Is that a ripe currant? Oh, I got one. That is a ripe currant right there. A red currant. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. A little tart. I gotta be careful trying to pick because there's poison ivy vine all through this. There's so much work to do out here in the food forest. It is minimal, but I really do enjoy harvesting sweet treats around the property. But that's going to be all for this one. I think I made it all the way around the gardens today. If you guys have any questions about the gardens, leave them in the comments down below. I'll try to get to them. And if you want to keep following along with everything here at Wood Acres, make sure to subscribe down below. Hit that like button before you leave, and you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching. Cool.